Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tiravadachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tiravadachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jai Om Vishnu Bhat Parvam Saprachari Srimad Bhagavatam Deity Worship Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai
Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Prem Se Kaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasati Kaur Bhaktavrind Ki
Jai
Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Udapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Lopesha Bhumika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Bhaktanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyamati Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna. Thank you all the devotees for joining for today's program. Special gratitude and thanks to His Grace Sutta Prabhu, Sandeep Prabhu, who is not yet here, and Prashant Prabhu for hosting, for being very kind to host all of you, and each and every one of you, all the devotees, for coming from different places and participating in the program. Also, special thanks to His Grace Janardhan Prabhu. He's a very senior devotee, joined in the 90s, and so I seek his blessings to say something for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees. So thank you for giving me opportunity, each and every one of you. Hare Krishna. So I had suggested some topics to Prabhuji, and he selected one of the topics which was not there in my list. So he said that, okay, maybe you can speak something on what is Srila Prabhupada's expectations from the ISKCON devotees. So this is a very critical topic for me because I am not someone who is actually following Srila Prabhupada 100%. So I am not qualified. So I seek the blessings of all the devotees. But I can share something which I do follow. So there are many things to be followed. Unlimited instructions of Prabhupada and Krishna also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we can at least follow some of them. Some of the most important ones we can follow. So I would also like to thank and welcome Sharadji, who is also part of the Pejawar Mutt, and he has specially come and he's also a good friend of Janardhan Prabhu. So thank you so much for joining in. Yeah, so Srila Prabhupada, so many times you must be knowing this, that Prabhupada disciples asked Prabhupada, what is the most pleasing thing to you? Like, what do you like the most? What can we do for you that will be pleasing to you? So Prabhupada gave different answers at different times. But one particular answer Srila Prabhupada gave is kind of universally applicable for everyone. And that is, love Krishna. I want you that you love Krishna, right? So Prabhupada said that book distribution, Naam Sankirtan, temple opening, build temples and all that. It's all connected to preaching. But on one particular occasion, Prabhupada said that I want that you love Krishna. So we'll expand on this, how to love Krishna, because that is the ultimate goal of every devotee in ISKCON, right? And that is the ultimate desire of Prabhupada also. It is not something about external, right? Because we may do service, but the consciousness may not be the right, or the attitude might not be the right one. So then, if we love Krishna, then everything is included in that. So prachar, sadhana, everything is included. And when I gave a list of topics to Prabhuji, and when he gave some different topic altogether, so then I told him that actually this topic covers all other parts of the topics that I suggested. So that we'll understand now from the class. So now, Srila Prabhupada, when he said that love Krishna, the first and foremost thing is to follow the instructions of Guru. You cannot get love of Krishna without following Guru. Okay. So Guru is like, in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned that Guru is like the base of, the devotee is the wood compared to the wood. And Guru is like the base of that wood. And then the teachings of the Guru are like the kindling stick with which we light the fire. And the fire is basically the knowledge. So when you have Guru as the foundation, and you stand on that foundation, and when you hear repeatedly the teachings of the Guru and you follow those instructions, then there is kindling, and through that kindling there is a fire. So the fire is basically compared to the bliss. The knowledge actually creates bliss in the devotees when you follow the knowledge. So Gyan and Vigyan, these are two different things. Gyan is just acquiring knowledge, but then when you put into practice, then it becomes Vigyan. So it becomes a science. So everything in spiritual life is all dependent, it is all based on the foundational principle of accepting the instruction of the Guru as life and soul, and then trying to execute that instructions, right? So this is the foundation. Plus, it is not just about the external thing, which is following the instruction. We have to also remember that the mood in which we follow and serve the Guru's instruction, that is also very important. So the spirit of being the servant of servant of servant, and the spirit of having this attitude of being a servant. So wherever, whichever position you are at, you may be, in a very big managerial position, or you may be having a very big leadership position in ISKCON. But we have to always remember that ultimately we are all servant, and the best leader is the best servant. Okay, so this attitude of servant, and carrying the mood of because we should always think that we want to serve everyone, not that we want to exploit others. Or even though devotees may worship other devotees, and devotees may give classes, or they may conduct many different services, many big services, but we should always remember at the back of the mind that we are all servants. So with this mood and with the foundation of Srila Prabhupada's Guru's instruction, we can advance in spiritual life. Okay, so now Srila Prabhupada has incorporated in ISKCON the most important limbs of bhakti. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, how many of you have studied Nectar of Devotion? Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, at least you have some idea. So, out of the 64 limbs of bhakti, right? We have 64 limbs of bhakti. I mean, there are definitely many limbs, but the other limbs, they are all expansion of this 64 limbs of bhakti. So now, which are the 5 most potent forms of bhakti? Deity worship, chanting, association of devotees, residing in Dham, Bhagavatam. These are the 5 most potent forms of bhakti according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, according to Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami. If you are executing these 5 limbs of bhakti, then you can say that all other limbs of bhakti, they are included in these 5 limbs. And they are all the expansion of these 5 limbs. Plus, these are the most 5 potent limbs of bhakti. So, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to cultivate love for Krishna through these 5 forms. And that's why we see that incorporated in ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada incorporated these 5 potent forms of bhakti. You will see that chanting, obviously, Kirtan is the life and soul of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, right? Kirtan. Then we have association. So we know that association is so important. Prabhupada created a society in which he has united people from different parts of the world so that we can all come together and associate, glorify the Lord for a higher purpose. So association is there. Then we have the Srimad Bhagavatam recitation. So in the morning classes, we know that Srila Prabhupada incorporated Srimad Bhagavatam classes mandatory in all ISKCON temples throughout the world. Right? So Bhagavatam classes are there. Then Deity Worship. Deity Worship, obviously, you know, the standard of ISKCON so high, right, throughout the world. There are some centers which are small, but eventually they will grow and they will also have a wonderful standard of Deity Worship. So there are so many people throughout the world, because I live in Mumbai and I live close to RASA temple. So I know practically every day when I go to temple, I see so many foreign people coming and they are visiting RASA temple. So they are just struck with wonder because the kind of standard which is maintained there in so many other temples also. So that automatically also creates a lot of favorable desire to practice devotional service. So people get inclination and they start asking questions, right? So Deity Worship, as you know, that Prabhupada established the standard throughout the world. And then last is the Dhamvas, or the worship of Tulsi Devi. So Dhamvas basically means wherever there is Sangha, there is association, wherever there is temple, that becomes Vaikuntha, that becomes Goloka. Prabhupada said many times. So if we are executing these 5 potent limbs of bhakti regularly, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, right? Nashta Prayesho Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtikir. If we are practicing this, implementing these 5 limbs of bhakti, then definitely, very quickly you will reach the stage of PREMA, which is love of God. And by reaching the state of love of God, you will love Krishna also. So, there are 9 stages of bhakti. Anyone knows which are the 9 stages as compiled by Sri Rupa Goswami? Yes. Shraddha. Sadhu Sangha. Okay, now someone else. 3. Bhajana Kriya. After that? Anartha Nivritti. Yes. Then? Nishtha. Ruchi. Asakti. Bhava. And Prema. So this is not something which Rupa Goswami has just by his own understanding he has given these stages. He has taken these stages from Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the Bhagavatam we have the Nashta Paresha Bhadresha verse. So before that and after those verses. So there are verses which are actually indicating all these stages. Okay. So now let's talk about all these 5 potent limbs of bhakti. Because I think it is also important to understand how exactly it should be implemented and executed. So first we start with Kirtan. Now see, this is the order in which our Acharyas, they have said that these are the most important limbs. The first is Kirtan. Okay, then comes association. Ideally, if you see for a sadhaka, for a conditioned soul, association of devotees is the most important. Now, what is the goal? So, what is the goal of association? The goal of association is not just speaking about, about material responsibilities or taking care of material things. It is basically about, it's about also glorifying the Lord together, coming Sankirtan, so doing Kirtan of the Lord, glorifying the Lord, talking about the pastimes of the Lord, discussing the philosophy, discussing about services, right? All these things, they are actually part of Sankirtan, association. So we'll discuss that elaborately later. But coming back to Kirtan, now Kirtan, now the Yug Dharma is actually Nam Sankirtan. It is not Japa. So first try to understand, it is not Japa, it is Nam Sankirtan. But because we are on the platform of Nama Aparadha, that's why we cannot chant the name purely. If you want to just attain the Lord in very quickly, if you want to attain the Lord, then Nam Sankirtan itself is sufficient. You don't have to do anything else. Okay? But to chant the name purely, we require knowledge. So all these stages, they condense, they compress when you chant purely. So right from Bhajana Kriya, directly you go to PREMA. But the condition is that name should be chanted purely. And in order to chant the name purely, you must have Gyan. So Gyan means Sambandh Gyan. So let's try to understand what are offenses and what is not an offense. Because many times we feel that, oh, this is an offense, I committed an offense unknowingly or intentionally, or is this an offense? We don't know that. So first thing is that try to understand what is offense, what is aparadh, what is not aparadh. Then only we can actually advance in bhakti. So we have the 10 offenses to the holy name, right? So we must study it carefully. We must try to take guidance from senior Vaishnavas. And whenever you have confusion or doubt whether I have committed offense or not, then you can consult some senior devotees who are experienced, who have realized, and they can guide you in this part. So if you do not commit any offenses, then directly from Bhajan Kriya you attain Prema, and in a very short time. And one typical example from the Shastra, from the Bhagavatam, is Ajamil. So he did not attain Prema, but he destroyed all the karmas. Right? So just by chanting the holy name once, he called Narayan, not at the time of death, but at the beginning. The very first time he chanted the name of Narayan, all his past, present, future karmas, they were destroyed. Okay? So that's why, even though he continued sinning after his chanting, he did not accrue any karma, because he did not commit any aparadh. So when you don't commit aparadh, don't commit offenses to the holy name, then the karma is all destroyed. But when you start committing aparadhs, then the karmas can reappear, and it can also destroy our bhakti. Right? So the holy name is so potent, it is so powerful, that just by chanting a syllable of the holy name, at the stage of Namabhas also. So there are 3 stages, right? Namaparad, Namabhas and Shuddhanam. Even at the stage of Namabhas, Namabhas is a stage where the offenses are almost nil, almost destroyed. But there is no love developed for the Lord. So Namabhas means unintentional chanting. Okay? Or chanting with fun also, or trying to ridicule, trying to make fun of the Lord, or with some other mentality also, not directly addressing the Lord, right? So that is Namabhas, chanting. Through that Namabhas, you can directly come to the stage of very quickly destroy all the karmas. And further, if you don't commit aparadh, then it's just a semblance of karma that is continuing. So for example, the snake has poison, right? If the snake will bite you, then you may die because of the poison. But if you remove the poison, and if the snake bites you, will there be any effect? No, not at all, right? So similarly, Ajamil, because he chanted at the stage of Namabhas, he destroyed all the karmas. And because he did not commit a single aparadh, offense to the holy name, that's why he saw Vishnu Dutas. They personally came and they saved Ajamil. So the Acharyas explained that he did not commit any aparadh, the 10 offenses to the holy name. That's why the karma was all destroyed. So when he was committing sinful activities, even after chanting the holy name once, it was a semblance of karma which was appearing. Okay. So now why the semblance of karma? Because if all karma is destroyed, then your body is also karma. Your body is karma, it will be destroyed. And through that you cannot perform bhakti. So it's a medium through which you can actually get a chance to perform bhakti, right? So when the body is destroyed, you cannot do bhakti, and that's why the Lord keeps a semblance of karma. It's the arrangement of the Lord. Like the way we see in the case of Bharat Maharaj also in the Bhagavatam, right? So Bharat Maharaj, although he actually got the body of a deer, and still the bhakti was preserved. Bharat Maharaj was the stage of bhav, but he had fallen down from that position. But still the Lord preserved his bhakti. So even in the body of a deer, he could remember the Lord. And in the third life, he attained perfection. He went back to Godhead. So the point that I am trying to convey is that although chanting is actually the goal of everything, the Yuga Dharma, and just by chanting the holy name one can attain perfection, but that chanting, it has to be chanted purely. That's why Srila Prabhupada said that 99% of our progress will depend on chanting the holy names of the Lord. How attentively, how sincerely, how purely we are chanting the holy name with love. So 99%. And just 1%, so all other limbs of bhakti, they are actually assisting the chanting of the holy name. And chanting of the holy name, now we also know the Navida bhakti limbs of bhakti, right? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Archanam, Vandanam, right? And Atma Nivedanam. So the chanting of the holy name includes all other 8 limbs also. It includes everything. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that this is Nam Sankirtan is actually the king of all the other processes of bhakti. So it has the potency, especially in Kali Yuga, Kali Kali Nam Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna is descended in the form of the holy names. Okay, so just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, you can achieve perfection. But it has to be assisted with knowledge. So Sambandhyan. So Sambandhyan basically means, how many of you knew the position of Radharani before coming to ISKCON? Knew about the material energy, knew about the Tathastha energy, the Jiva, Jiv Tattva, Shakti Tattva, Krishna Tattva, Jada Tattva. How many of you knew these things before coming to ISKCON? I think almost nil.
We don't know Radharani at all.
Exactly, right, yeah. So like the Antaranga Shakti of the love, the internal potency, the pleasure potency, the external potency, the marginal potency, we didn't knew about these things. So this is called Sambandhyan. Sambandhyan does not just mean that, okay, you are part and parcel, Mama Evamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. No, it also means what is our relationship with the Jad Tattva, what is the relationship between two living entities, what is the relationship between Jad Tattva and the Lord, and like that. What is the pleasure potency of the Lord, right? See, because we are in Vaishnava philosophy, Vaishnava culture, we say that we ourselves, the Jiva and the Lord, they are different, and we have sambandh with the Lord through bhakti, right? So, if you really want to understand the Lord, then the first thing that you need to understand is that the Lord has Shakti. If you remove Shakti, then the Lord, the Supreme Absolute Truth, becomes Brahman. When you understand that the Lord has Shakti in the material world, when the Lord is the maintainer, destroyer, organizer of or creator of the material world, then you come to the stage of Paramatma realization. Vedantitat tattva vidam tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti sabhyate. So the three aspects of the absolute truth is Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagwan. When you come to the stage of understanding that the Lord has a spiritual world, He is performing pastimes in the spiritual world, then you come to the stage of Bhagwan. Right? So it's a gradual progression. You remove Shakti, you come to the state of Brahman. You are worshipping Brahman. Because Bhagwan minus Shakti is Brahman. Brahman does not have any Shakti. It is completely, the absolute is something but contains nothing, according to Shankaracharya's Neti philosophy, which is basically Advaitavad, right? So these things has to be understood properly. The philosophy, the tattva, the science behind Krishna consciousness should be understood. That is called Sambandhyan. Okay, and along with that, how do we perform bhakti? Because now, okay, now we are convinced that we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and we have a relation and we have to attain the Lord. We understood the goal. So how to perform bhakti? So that is called Abhiday Gyan. This Abhiday will educate you how to practically perform bhakti without committing offenses. Okay, so this Sambandh Abhiday will lead you to Prayojan, which is the goal, which is love of God, Krishna Prem. Right? So just Kirtan is not sufficient in itself. Now the problem in Kali Yuga is that I am sharing so much knowledge with you, right? After you go home, you may forget certain things, right? So repeatedly it has to be bombarded. That's why Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. That's why we have to hear repeatedly. You know what? Something very interesting. Why do we chant every day? Why do we perform devotional service every day? Does anyone know that? There are two reasons.
Always remember Krishna, never forget.
Okay, so that stage is a very high stage. It's like something that you have achieved. 24 hours a day you want to remember the Lord, you want to serve the Lord, you want to please the devotees, serve the devotees. It's a very advanced stage. But in the beginning, why? Why do we need to chant repeatedly? I mean, how many of you would like to chant 64 rounds every day? Who would like to chant 64 rounds every day? Okay, Prabhuji is the exception probably. So he has a lot of taste probably in the holy names.
Like, we are not having that, but we like to want to achieve this.
Yeah, so it is easy to manage, you'll agree? Easy to manage, easy to do some practical service, easy to do some external service. But can you chant the holy names constantly, 64 rounds every day? Very difficult, no taste, right? Right? Okay, and someone may be able to chant the holy name also constantly, but if a guru, if like, you know, if I ask you to surrender to someone, will you do that? It's so difficult. Surrender is not so easy. You may also chant 64 rounds. I mean, there are so many people outside from our bhakti perspective who are able to do very good sadhana, good austerities. They have done a lot of austerities, tap and all that, jump and all that. But surrendering to the guru, that's completely different game, right? So during Srila Prabhupada's time also we saw that one devotee wanted to chant 64 rounds and he wanted to reside in Mayapur. Prabhupada rejected. He said, after a few days you will get into Maya. And that happened. Because Prabhupada understood the mind of a devotee. He could see directly in the heart of the devotee that they are not ready for it. So the guru will instruct depending on the stature of the disciple. He will not say something which is out of the world, right? So chanting the holy name repeatedly, why do we do it? Because according to our acharyas, they have given the reason and they have quoted Padma Puran. So because we commit aparadhs, that's why repeatedly we have to do it. Because by repeated chanting, by repeated devotional activity, it will counteract the offenses to the holy name. Unless you commit aparadh to the Vaishnava. Okay, so it has to be done repeatedly. Whatever repeatedly you do, that will counteract gradually. And obviously you have to also cultivate the attitude of repentance, trying also introspecting what offenses you have committed. You have to beg forgiveness to the devotee. So these attitude is also important, and you have to also introspect. So then the holy name can actually counteract all the offenses to the holy name, to the Vaishnavas, if there is no option. So that's why we perform bhakti repeatedly, and especially in Kali Yuga, because our mind is distracted completely. That's why Khatwan Maharaj, he just performed bhakti for a moment and he perfected. He did not have to wait for years, or he did not have to undergo any sadhana, but just by a moment he actually attained perfection, because his greed was there, his intense desire to perform bhakti was there, and he did not commit any aparadh. So immediately he went back to Godhead. So this is one of the measures how we can actually counteract the offenses to the holy name, by repeatedly doing certain activities. Okay, and there are many evidences in the scriptures that Srila Jiva Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur they quote from the scriptures, from the Puranas. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says that even if you chant the holy name millions of times, you still cannot attain PREMA because aparadha. But just by chanting one syllable, the dim reflection of the holy name also, if you chant purely, you attain the feet of Krishna. Okay? So this is about Kirtan. And Srila Prabhupada wanted us to chant sincerely, attentively. That is Srila Prabhupada's main goal. And with that, the attitude is also very important. The cultivation of gratitude, the cultivation of humility, the cultivation of the mood in which we chant, in which we take shelter of the holy names. So Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur says that Trina api sunichina taro api sahisnuna is actually the key to chant the holy name. If you want to attain perfection, then this is the verse which is the key to chant the holy name perfectly. Right? So this is about Kirtan. So we are not just emphasizing on the external aspect of the Kirtan, but the internal cultivation has to be there. So devotees, they may do some Kirtan, but it is not necessarily their mind is fixed on the holy name, or they are remembering the Lord, they are seeing the deity forms, they are meditating on the pastimes of the Lord, or the qualities of the Lord, right? But they may be distracted, so that kind of Sankirtan is not going to be so effective, it's not going to be so pure. But when we manifest it, and then we'll attain the Lord. So this is the significance of doing Kirtan, Naam Sankirtan. Now, why do we chant the holy names? We chant the holy name because the real taste in the holy name is not dependent on the music of the holy during the Sankirtan, right? It's not dependent on the music. Sometimes, we want to hear certain Kirtans only because the music is so attractive. But the real sweet is actually the holy name. That we have to realize. Right? So, japa is the real indicator of your taste of the holy name. When you are very attentive and you are constant in your chanting of japa, constantly attentive in your chanting of holy name, that only reveals how much internally you have been purified or you have connected to the Lord. And that japa will assist you in your kirtan. So when you do Sankirtan, see why Sankirtan is recommended in Kali Yuga? Because it's a efforts of all the devotees together. Then individually in Kali Yuga it is not possible to advance. A lot of conditionings are there, right? So that's why Sankirtan is recommended in Kali Yuga, because all devotees come together and they glorify the Lord. This is also pleasing to the Lord very much. At the same time, it becomes an automatic process. Like if you sit together for japa, then you may be able to chant 16 rounds at one stretch. Easy, so easy, because all devotees are doing, so we also, it becomes so easier. But then the final goal is not to be dependent on the devotees for everything that you do. Finally, the goal is that you become independent in your own Krishna consciousness. So develop a taste in such a way that wherever, whichever place you are, you will always be attentive in your Krishna conscious activities. That is the goal. So that's why we do japa, right? Japa, because let's assume there is no japa, there is only kirtan. So you will be attentive during the kirtan, but when you come outside, you will start discussing things about the material life, of the material world, and which movie you saw last, right? All these things will come up. So japa is to make you attentive in your practices, because it's a personal relationship with the Lord also at the same time. It's an individual effort, right? In a group, see if there are, now for example, let's say Bill Gates. Do you think that he will like to associate with people who are like very, lazy in their efforts, in their consciousness? he will never associate with such kind of people. Because he has, in the entire life, he has struggled and he has put efforts. And he has cultivated a lifestyle in such a way that he cannot live without work. I mean, this is just a material example, but there is a similar analogy. So similarly, in a group of devotees also, every devotee must think like that. That what is my contribution to the group? Not that every time we are dependent on others. Oh, okay, you are there, so I will be delivered, no problem. Which is, ultimately we are all dependent on Prabhupada's mercy and Guru's mercy. But what is our contribution to our Gurudev? That is what is most important. How much efforts we are putting to please Guru and Srila Prabhupada. Right? So this is very important. So this is about Kirtan. Then comes association with devotees. So ideally, association is actually the ultimate thing for sadhakas. Right? But the goal of association, one thing we should always remember, that the goal of association is again not to be dependent on devotees. It's to make you independent finally. Right? So that's why now there are two things. One is greed for bhakti and one is association. According to you, according to your understanding, which is more important? Greed is more important or association is more important? Both. Greed? Okay, how many devotees say greed? And how many say association? Okay. So yeah, greed is actually more important. Why? That association has to develop greed. If you become greedy for the Lord, whichever place you are, wherever you are, you will always remember Krishna. You will not forget Krishna. You will not be dependent on any external circumstance. That's why Prabhupada also writes in one purport that the Uttamadhikari, the advanced Mahabhagavat Vaishnava, they take their own association because they are always greedy from within to serve the Lord, to remember the Lord, to glorify the Lord, to preach about the Lord. So please try to understand one thing, that association is always going to be there. For a Mahabhagavat also, they will also take association of advanced Vaishnavas. But that is to relish Krishna consciousness. Whereas for the sadhakas, that association has to finally culminate in greed. So that it will empower you in such a way, wherever you go, you will never be dependent on anyone. Because otherwise the mentality will be that, okay, devotees are not there, what will I do? Then it will make you very lazy and you will take things for granted also. But when you have the greed, it will push you to do many, many miraculous services for Srila Prabhupada. Right? So, this greed, lolyam, Rupa Goswami says that, or in Jeev Goswami, Vishwanath Thakur, they say that by any means one should get this lolyam for the Lord, this greed. It's okay. So the goal of association is also to get greed, ultimately. And association also means there are different types of association. You associate with the Kanishta, you associate with the Madhyama, and you associate with the Uttama. So you give mercy to Kanishta. That means you serve them, you help in such a way that they will also advance. So you have to be compassionate towards Kanishta devotees. Then Madhyama you have to relish because you are sharing Krishna Katha with equals. So you learn something from them and they also learn something from you. Right? And you share and you progress together. And from Uttama, or especially those who are higher than us, we have to humbly serve them and take instructions from them. So this is the true meaning of association. And then Rupa Goswami also described in the Nectar of Instruction that it's also important to confidentially share with each other our Krishna consciousness, right? And to also serve each other prasadam. And to also exchange gifts. So this gift is also, obviously it is not just material gift, but also the gift of sharing Krishna consciousness with devotees. These are the 6 principles by which we can actually make tremendous advancement. And then Rupa Goswami also talks about how to associate, how to perform devotional service. Ussaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tat Karma, Pravartanat. Then Ussaha, enthusiasm, Ussaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, determination. Enthusiasm, determination, and then Dhairya, patience. See, this is very important. It's not just about utsaha and determination, but the most important element which balances the two is patience. So you may have a lot of enthusiasm, you may have a lot of determination, but does it mean that Krishna will be purchased by your enthusiasm and determination? No. And it is not that something that you are going to, some standard that you are going to set, that okay, oh Lord, I am doing so much for you, so now I want the stage of PREMA or stage of Bhava. I don't want to hear anything. I want it right now because I am doing so much for you. So you cannot expect the Lord to give you, you cannot take the Lord cheaply. He has His own time, and whenever He wants, He will. So see, what is the meaning of service? What is the meaning of love? Love means that you want the beloved to give you the result at His time, according to His will. Not that we impose our will on the Supreme Lord. Right? So that's why patience is very important. That will perfectly balance enthusiasm and determination. And sometimes what happens? In over-enthusiasm, you may slip or you may fall, you may deviate. Right? Initially you may be very enthusiastic, but then later on you will realize that, well, for long-term lifetime, I am not going to be able to maintain this standard. I won't be able to. So then what do? You come down. So you try to jump, right? From first floor to third floor, you try to jump. And what will be the result? You will fall down. But if you go through the ladders, through the steps, gradually go to the third floor, you will attain the destination. You reach the destination. So utsaha has to be balanced with patience. We try our best, but then we should always remember that the results are not in my hand. Whenever the Lord wants, He will give the result. And if the results are not available, we don't get the results. That's why second important principle is determination. No matter, even if after my enthusiasm, after my efforts, if I don't attain results, I am determined to serve the Lord. Pure devotional service, without any tinge of jnana and karma, without any ulterior motive. Rupa Goswami has very wonderfully given verse in the Nectar of Devotion. Anya vilasita sunyam jnana karma dhyana anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. What is uttama bhakti? Uttama bhakti, the topmost bhakti or pure devotional service, is that which is free of any desires, free of any ulterior motives, other than the desire to serve the Lord. That's why Anya Bilasita. It's not Anya Bilas. It is Anya Bilasita. That specially Sita is added so that one desire except the one desire which is to serve Krishna. That's it. Because we cannot be desireless. Desireless means we become Mayavadis, Advaitvadis, right? Or Buddhist. Void, everything is void. There is nothing which is existing. Right? So we are not Advaitvadis, we are not Buddhist, we are not Jains, and that's why one desire will remain. That desire is to serve Krishna. Jnana karmadi anavritam, without the mixture, without the the contamination of jnana and karma. So we don't have to speculate too much, and we don't have to give a lot of emphasis on karma, on fruitive activities. We don't expect from the Lord. At the same time, we also don't want to become speculators, jnanis. Jnana karmadi anavritam, anukulyena krishna anushilanam. So anukul, that bhakti which is favorable to the Lord. Right? So, and it should also give pleasure to the Lord. So our acharyas, they give example of Kams, Maharaj Kams, and then they also give example of Yashoda. Right? So Kans gave pleasure to Krishna. Did he desire to give pleasure to Krishna? No. But indirectly he gave pleasure to Krishna. Because Krishna enjoyed fighting with him. Krishna enjoyed fighting with Hiranyakashipu also, in the form of Narsimha Dev. But it was not anukul. It was not favorable for bhakti. So that is rejected. That's why anukul is very important. Yashoda Maya, she chastised Krishna. Right? So it displeased Krishna. So is it also motivated devotional service or contaminated? Yashoda's devotional service? No. Why? Because the intention was to please Krishna ultimately. Right? So, although apparently Krishna was displeased when Yashoda chastised Krishna, in the Damodar Leela we see that. Right? But her intention was pure. The milk that she gave she preferred to she gave more preference to the milk because that milk was ultimately meant for Krishna's pleasure. And that milk was ultimate. It was the best milk because, our Acharya explained that 900,000 cows are there. And Nand Maharaj and Yashoda Maiya, they make sure that out of those 900,000 cows, only 9 are selected. And amongst those 9, only few of them are selected. And finally, only one of them is selected, which gives the best milk to the Lord. The purest type of milk to the Lord. Right? So that she wanted to offer to the Lord. So like that we can understand. So this is the meaning of association. Then why I am sharing all these things? Because Prabhupada expected these things. So Prabhupada wanted us to love Krishna, right? And loving Krishna means we are trying to practice these principles so that ultimately we can love Krishna. Okay, so after association comes the third limb of bhakti, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why, our Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate Purana. It is the Amal Purana. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that there is no scripture like Srimad Bhagavatam. It is the ultimate authority for Gaudiya Vaishnavas and for the Rudra Sampradaya, Vallabhacharya Sampradaya also. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Amal Purana. Now there are so many evidences from scriptures. Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha, he has actually given references from Shrutis. First of all, establishing the importance of Smritis and the Puranas. Okay, and also stating that how both are equal in nature. They are not Smritis are not inferior to Shrutis. In fact, Smritis, they complete the Puranas, the Shrutis, especially the Puranas. That's why it is called Puran. Puran, that which completes. Okay, and so there are references given from the Rig Veda where it is mentioned that from the breath of the Supreme Lord came the Shrutis, the Smritis, the Itihasas, the Puranas. There are many other references from Chandogya Upanishad and other also. Jiva Goswami quotes in Tattva Sandarbha establishing the importance of the Smritis and the Puranas. And then using the references from the Puranas, because now it is established that Puranas are on equal level with the Shrutis. So then Jiva Goswami quotes from all other Puranas, Matsya Puran, Vayu Puran, Skand Puran, Padma Puran. All these Purans, they glorify the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies itself like no other Puran. So this is how Jiva Goswami establishes the supreme position of Srimad Bhagavatam. So for us, Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate authority. And it is also the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Because we know the sequence, what happened. Vyasadeva actually compiled the Vedas, right? And then came with the Itihasas, then with the Puranas, he compiled the Puranas, then he finally culminated everything in the terms of Vedanta Sutra. And then he was not satisfied. So Narad Muni came and then he told Vyasadeva that actually you have missed out the most important thing, which is pure devotional service to the Lord. And you have misled people through the knowledge of karma. And by enticing the people with the knowledge of karma kand, fruitive activities. So write and glorify about the Supreme Lord. Then he wrote a natural commentary which is called as Natural Commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so the 18 Puranas, he compiled it earlier, and Bhagavatam is one of the 18 Puranas, right? But it is also said that he wrote a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra in the form of Bhagavatam. So is there a contradiction? No. So it is explained that actually the Bhagavatam appeared in the subtle form in the 18 Puranas earlier. Then Vyasadeva expanded in the form of 18,000 verses. Okay. So this is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took Bhagavatam as the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. That's why he did not write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. But later on there was a problem. Some outside people from other sampradayas, they were claiming that Gaudiya Vaishnavas do not have their own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So then Baldev Vidyabhushan had to come with a Sri Bhasya commentary, a Sri Govinda Bhasya commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So somehow he came up with this commentary. But Bhagavatam is considered to be the topmost authority. And there are a lot of pramans in the Bhagavatam. Okay, it gives a holistic understanding of all the scriptures. Achinta Bheda Ved. So Ved and Abhed Tattva, they are all present in Srimad Bhagavatam together. Right? So that's why we have to learn Srimad Bhagavatam. Plus Bhagavatam is for the Vaishnavas basically, because it describes about the Lord, and more than that, it describes about the pastimes of the devotees of the Lord. So for the Lord, the devotees are supreme. They are most important. And that's why, because Srimad Bhagavatam describes elaborately about all these devotees, that's why Bhagavatam is the topmost scripture. So you see, so many chapters on an elaboration on the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, Ranti Dev, and so many other devotees of the Lord. They are all elaborately described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Plus, Bhagavatam is a scripture which covers the 10 main topics of a scripture. Okay. That's why it is called Mahapuran. Why? Because there are 10 topics of a scripture, which means that Sarg, Visarg, Sthanam, Poshanam. Sarg is the primary creation, Visarg is the secondary creation. Like primary creation basically means that Mahavishnu is creating and he's providing the ingredients for the material world, right? For example, the 24 elements of material world, the 5 tanmatras, the 5 gyanendriyas, the 5 karmendriyas, the 5 panch mahabhutas, and then mind, intelligence, ego and chitta, the 24 elements. Somewhere it is mentioned 25, somewhere it is mentioned 26, somewhere it is mentioned 28 elements. But all these ingredients are provided by Mahavishnu. Okay, and that's how the material universes are created. So that is called as primary creation. Secondary creation is called Visarga, where Brahma is appearing inside Garbhodasha, Vishnu's navel, and then he starts infiltrating all the living entities in the universe. That is secondary creation, right? So Visarga, then Sthanam, the position of the different living entities in the material universe. Poshana, maintenance, then Uti. So these are different topics of a scripture. So a scripture has to describe these things in detail. All these 10 topics of a scripture, it has to be described in detail. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the only one which actually describes in detail in all of its canto. And there is the Nirodha, then there is the Ashray. Ashray is basically the shelter. And that is the 10th topic of a scripture. And that Ashray is basically Krishna. Ete Amsha Kala Pumsha Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam Indriyari Vyakulam Lokam Hridayanti Yuge Yuge. So, in the Bhagavatam, it is very clearly established the glorious position of Krishna. And then, majority of the work of the Srimad Bhagavatam consists of the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Right? So now you may be wondering that, the pastimes of Krishna is given in the 10th canto, but the Bhagavatam has 12 cantos. So how come majority of the chapters are dedicated to Krishna? It is true. You see, there are 335 chapters total in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, and out of those 335 chapters, there are almost 55 chapters which are 90 chapters which are dedicated to Lord Krishna. No other Lord, no other avatar is described so much in detail in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Plus, Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from the body of Krishna, as described in the Padma Purana. Like the first 2 cantos are the feet, then the other 2 cantos, like there is a gradual progression of the body. 6th canto is the heart of the Supreme Lord. That's why you will see that Ajamil, the pastime of Ajamil, which is glorification of the holy name, is the heart of the Lord. So, holy name is actually the heart in one sense. And then the 11th, 12th cantos, the 10th canto is the face of the Lord, smiling face of the Lord. And then 11th and 12th canto is actually the head of the Lord. Right? So, this way, there are many scriptures glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? And now, academically, Bhagavatam is ultimate. So, I had given a class, a seminar on 3 topics glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. From the academics perspective, from a spiritual perspective, and from academic, spiritual, and scriptural perspective. So, So it's another class in itself. I mean, if you're interested to know or hear, you can visit my YouTube channel, and there are 3 parts to it. So you can go to the academic. Even in the academic world, Srimad Bhagavatam is glorified like anything. So this is the testimony of many scholarly Sanskrit scholars from Cambridge University or from US, Princeton University, Harvard University, Uttar State University, so many of them. So they have given their testimony about Srimad Bhagavatam. How, even if you just want to understand and learn Sanskrit, so Bhagavatam is like the litmus test, because Bhagavatam has many meters. There are many metrical patterns in Bhagavatam. It is not that, so generally we have this basic Anustup meter, right, in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam raja aham tva sarva papebhyo moksha amima sucha, which is having 32 syllables. It's a basic Anustup meter, right? But the Bhagavatam has got so many different types of meters. And along with the metrical patterns, poetic expressions of Bhagavatam, it also has prose in it. Long sentences, you'll see. Especially in the 5th canto. So there are unique glories of Bhagavatam, for which we will have a separate class, maybe online or something like that, if you want. So this is the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the immediate result of Srimad Bhagavatam, reading, hearing, discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, is basically injecting us with Krishna Prem. That's the main goal. Because the reason the Bhagavatam was narrated is Parikshit Maharaj was on deathbed. And so he asked Sukadeva Goswami to narrate the Srimad, to share something which is very important for a person at the time of death. So he narrated the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's how it is so important. So by regularly hearing, regularly associating with devotees, these things will help us develop love for Krishna. Basically, it will help us to chant the holy name attentively, to always remember that Krishna is in the holy name. So that's why we need the association and the hearing, Shravana, constantly. So this is association. Then comes our deity worship. So deity worship, as you are aware, that deity worship is so practical. Just by looking at the deities, by cultivating relationship with them, you can so easily develop love for the Lord, right? Because it's so personal. Whenever you go to temple, you make a relationship with the Lord, right? And in that, once you start making relationship, you always tend to remember that person more, right? Because you are serving directly. You are praying to the Lord, you are offering your respects, you are, whenever there is some problem, you express to the Lord. So the Lord will reciprocate with your desire. And you get attached to the beautiful form of the Lord. Which generally, without the deity, it is very difficult to get attached to an impersonal thing, right? You cannot be attached to the air. So you require some form to meditate, right? Now, the deity form is the Sakshat form of the Lord. It is Sakshat presence of the Lord. So it is not the representative of the Lord. Just like, it is not like the post box that you deliver, you put in some letter and it will be delivered. Because the post box is ultimately managed by the postman, right? But with deities it is not like that. It is Sakshat Bhagwan. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, it is mentioned that the Lord appears in 2 forms. In Shabda Brahman, okay, and in his deity form. So it is Sakshat Lord. It is not representative of the Lord also. It is Sakshat Bhagwan. We have to realize that. Okay. So, now how is he eternal? He is also the eternal form of the Lord, the deity form. How is that eternal? Because the Lord is manifesting at certain point of time. So how is that eternal? The Jiva Goswami explains in his, I think, Paramatma Sandarbha. He says that Bhagwan, his original form is Swayam Rupa, and then he has his other forms called Swayam Prakash. So this Swayam Prakash, they are all non-different from the original Swayam Rupa forms of the Lord. For example, in the Rasa Leela, the Lord did not expand. He was already present in his unlimited forms, in his original form. But these are all forms which are aprakat. And whenever there is a need, they will become manifested. So the deity form is also one of the Swayam Prakash forms, kind of. So whenever someone cows the deity and when it is installed, it is because a Kanishta goes to the temple, he sees the Lord, he glorifies the Lord, but then he criticizes the devotees and he does not appreciate devotees. And so that is Prakriti of Bhakta, which is basically Kanishta. Right? He will not be able to discriminate. So he only appreciates the Lord in the temple, but outside of temple, then he does all the nonsense things. So that with that mindset, Prabhupada said that, in that context, he said that deity worship is meant for Kanishtas. Okay. But any devotee who will get attached to the deities, they will also make advancement. And Prabhupada also said that deity worship is also meant for the advanced Vaishnavas. Prabhupada said different things at different times. So we need to reconcile by understanding the context in what he said. So basically the point is that he wanted to encourage devotees to go outside of temple and preach. Not just be in temple and be lazy. Right? In order to encourage devotees, he actually said like that. But someone who is completely surrendered to the deities, they can definitely do deity worship throughout their life, dedicate entirely, and they will attain perfection also very soon. So it is also meant for advanced devotees because it will very easily reveal your. So it requires a higher qualification when you approach the Lord directly. But when you approach the Lord directly, you also get that reward. Right? So it is like that. So deity worship is very important. The Prabhupada established that. And finally, we have Dham. This is one of my favorite actually, Dham. So Dham, especially for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Vrindavan, Mayapur, Jagannath Puri. And then obviously then we have many other Dhams also. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited these three Dhams. And there is a special interconnection between these three Dhams. For those devotees who are in the parampara of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mayapur, Navadvip is very important. And in order to experience Vipralambha Bhav from the Lord, it is very important to also cultivate attachment towards Jagannath Puri Dham. That's why we see that there are so many Jagannath deities also in our centers. Right? And Jagannath is very merciful. So in one letter Prabhupada says that Jagannath has appeared especially for the Malichas and the Yavanas. Because in Jagannath Puri, there are all fish eaters. And in order to deliver them, Jagannath has appeared. So Jagannath is more merciful than Krishna. Okay, so that's why if you commit aparadh to Radha Krishna, better you worship Jagannath. Because Jagannath will not take offenses severely. Best is you worship God Nitai. There are no offenses to the anything connected with God Nitai, no offenses. That's why in Kali Yuga, God Nitai, eva kevalam, kalau nasti eva nasti gatiranyata. God Nitai takes shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, everything is accomplished. You get the same result as worshipping Radha Krishna without any offenses. So Navadvip Dham, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there, we also want to cultivate and establish attachment towards Navadvip Dham gradually. So in the spiritual world, we attain Navadvip. There is we know Golok, right? Goloka in the spiritual world. So this Goloka has divisions. It has got Vrindavan in the center, it has got Mathura surrounding, it has got Dwarka. Now where is Jagannath Puri? Jagannath Puri is in between Dwarka and Mathura in the spiritual world. Okay? And Navadvip, Swetadvip is right surrounding Vrindavan. It is, it's surrounding. So if you have the Goloka chart, then I can show you Navadvip with that. So it's a parallel universe along with Goloka, Navadvip Dham. So those devotees who are attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they go to Navadvip. Those who are attached to Krishna, they go to Vrindavan. And those devotees attached to both, they have two special identities. So they expand themselves in two worlds, in Navadvip as well as in Vrindavan, in the spiritual world, according to Bhakti Thakur. So now see, what is the importance of Dham? Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport that just by coming in contact with the dust of Vrindavan, one immediately comes in contact with Krishna. How many of you experienced that feeling? When you visited the Dham, how many of you got that feeling? That, oh, something very special, something very potent here. We can experience Krishna here, right? You feel that. You can feel Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you can feel the associates of Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, Haridas Thakur, Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Pandit. When you go to Puri, so Puri has a special taste. It is basically, we go there to experience Vipral Bhav. See, we always, our mood is that we try to inculcate the feelings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the way he developed, cultivated his feelings towards the Lord. So in a similar way, we also try to cultivate those feelings. Okay, so it is very important that in Puri Dham, we go with the spirit of assisting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Vipralam Bhav with Jagannath. Now, what is the significance of Jagannath? Jagannath has a special connection with our, with Krishna Leela, and that is Jagannath is the special Mahabhav form of the Lord, ecstatic Mahabhav form of the Lord, which the Lord manifested in Dwarka, or you can say in Vrindavan also. There are different pastimes of the appearance of Jagannath. 3 pastimes. Okay, one is described in one of the Puranas, the story of Mara Indradumna. You must have heard about it. One is the story which is described by Sri Rup Goswami in Lalit Madhav. And there is another story which is also described in the Puranas. If you remember, this is the most popular and common story, which is that when Rohini is narrating the Vrad Leela to the Dwarka Mahishis, that time Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they stand at the door and they get into ecstatic trance. And Narada from top he sees, and he wants to preach about the form of Jagannath. So this is one very popular common pastime. But then Rup Goswami has given a wonderful pastime, which Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they know this. So it is kind of intimate pastime, but he says that how Krishna was in Dwarka and then he was remembering Radha Rani and Gopis and the Vrajvasis day and night. And all these Mahishis, they were very disturbed, right? I mean, they were married to Krishna and he is remembering someone else. So they were very disturbed. So they wanted to understand, and so then what happened is, one time Narad Muni, Uddhava, Balramji, they all assembled together because Krishna was not getting up. He fainted in his ecstasy of remembering all these Vrajvasis. So then, Narad Muni came and he suggested that let's do one thing. Let's try to wake up Krishna by chanting the glories of Vrindavan and Vrajvasis. But then it was, I think, Uddhav who said that we cannot do this because as soon as he hears about Vrindavan, he will immediately leave Dwarka and he will go running and he will never come back. So that's why then, so Balramji also, basically first Narad Muni told Uddhava that why don't you do one thing? You can go there, go to Vrindavan, pacify the Vrajvasis, and then we will get Krishna to Vrindavan. Okay, so at least you will not stay there forever, you will come back. So then Uddhav said, I already visited, I stayed there for 6 months, nothing happened. I mean, Krishna gave so many promises, but he did not return to Vrindavan. So again, if I go, then the Vrajvasis will start throwing stones at me, right? So better I do not go to Vrindavan. So then Narad Muni asked Balram, so Balramji, can you go now? He is not able to go. So Balramji again, he gave the same reason. That I also went to Vrindavan, I stayed there for 2 months, nothing happened, I had to come back. And I gave assurances to the gopis also, that Krishna will definitely come. But it did not come. Then Subhadra Maya took the voluntary role and she said that, let me go, because I have never gone before. So let me go, I will try to pacify the Vrajvasis. Now see why the Rath Yatra starts with Lord Balram's chariot. Anyone knows that? Because when Subhadra said that let me go first, Balram said, no, you are a woman. So I will come along with you as a protector. So first I will go. So that's why Balram's chariot is starting first in Rath Yatra in Jagannath Puri. Then followed by Subhadra. And at the last, Jagannath will come. And you know why Jagannath also, there is the ceremony of the procession where they are taking Krishna out of temple, Jagannath, and then they are taking him on a chariot. So actually Jagannath is like, moving back and forth. He's like, he does not want, like, he's very eager to go to Vrindavan because Gundicha is Vrindavan, not different from Vrindavan. So apparently it seems that, if the Pandavas are doing something to Lord Jagannath, they are like, shaking him or something. No, but it is actually Jagannath's ecstasy of going to Vrindavan that he is kind of, like shaking because of the ecstasy. So that's why in the Jagannath, that's procession ceremony, you will see that Jagannath is constantly moving back and forth. So this is because now when Balaram already went to Vrindavan with Subhadra, so then Narad Muni tells Uddhav, so now it's the time we should wake up Krishna and we should tell him that let's be ready. So then Krishna finally gets ready and then they prepare chariot for him and then he goes to Vrindavan. So when Balaram and Subhadra, they reach Vrindavan, they see the ecstasy of gopis and the Brajvasis and they become shocked by their ecstatic loving sentiments. So their bhav is completely manifested into the form of the deity form. Like the hands are, they go inside, the legs also go inside and the face elongates. Okay, so this is how Balaram and Subhadra, they manifest their ecstatic forms, Mahabhav forms, while going to Vrindavan. And then Krishna, when he comes, he arrives in Vrindavan, so he sees Radharani in Seva Kunj. And then he's seeing that she's almost in a state of fainting and in a state of dying. So then somehow Lalita Sakhi comes there and then she whispers in Radharani's ear that Krishna has come. But still she does not get up. So then the wind which is touching Krishna also touches Srimati Radharani's body, and then she she comes out of her trance. And then Lalita starts chanting the holy name of Krishna. So then Radharani wakes up and then she sees Krishna. But Krishna, when he's seeing the condition of Radharani like this, so he gets into Mahabhav. So that form is, so this is how Rupa Goswami explains. Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they manifest their forms. So this is the speciality of Lord Jagannath, the speciality of Puri Dham. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially went to Puri Dham in order to cultivate these sentiments, to cultivate Vipralam. Whenever he saw Jagannath, he did not see Jagannath. He saw Shyam Sundar Krishna, Rajendra Nanda Krishna. Right? That was the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was always searching for Shyam Sundar Krishna. And he considered Jagannath Puri to be non-different from Vrindavan, especially Kota Gopinath temple, if you go in that area. So non-different from Vrindavan, Govardhan, like that. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Rajendra and Shyam Sundar Krishna and Jagannath. And this is the mood also, the way we are supposed to see Jagannath in Jagannath Puri Dham. Vipralamba Bhav. We should feel that Vipralamba, and we should also then get the feeling of Sambhoga by realizing that he is Shyam Sundar Krishna. At the same time, it is called union in separation, Vipralamba Kshetra as well as Sambhog Kshetra, because although there is a meeting, but there is also separation. Like for example, in the Kurukshetra, all the Brajvasis along with the Yadus, along with the Kauravas, they all assembled, right? And they saw Krishna, and they couldn't realize that this is not their own Krishna, because Krishna was with his chariot. He was so opulent. He had so many ornaments on his body, very opulent. He looked like a king rather than a coward boy. So they could not understand who is this person. It seems that he is our Krishna, but he is not even our Krishna, because he has changed, he has transformed. So although there was meeting, but in that meeting they could not experience union. They actually experienced separation. So intensity of separation increased in that union. That's why it is called union in separation, or separation in union, like that, vice versa. So this is the significance of Jagannath Puri Dham. Whereas in Navdeep Dham, we try to follow in the footsteps of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by doing Sankirtan and trying to feel the separation of Krishna and Vrindavan in Navdeep Dham. So the speciality of Jagannath Puri Dham is Mahaprasad. There's a special pastime about that. But in brief, the Mahaprasad of Jagannath Puri is very popular because it is the ecstatic taste of Krishna in the Mahabhav form, which with the gopis they used to experience when they had, exchange of betel nuts, pan and all that. So there is an intimate, confidential reason for that. Why only Jagannath Mahaprasad is so popular, it is so glorified. And in Vrindavan, obviously we know that is the provision, that is the goal. So Vrindavan, the dust of Vrindavan is very, it's glorified a lot. The dust of Vrindavan is very important because Krishna and his associates, they appeared there and they left their dust. So that dust of Vrindavan is very important, it's glorified. Mahaprasad of Jagannath Puri Kirtan of Navdeep and the dust of Vrindavan. These are significant in these respective places. Okay, so this is the significance of Dham. Just by connecting with the Dham, it is very easy. That's why Prabhupada said that a neophyte devotee, they should stay in the Dham for some time, so that they can actually get the mercy of the Lord, they can advance. In another context, Prabhupada said that one should not stay in the Dham for more than 3 days. Completely opposite. So what is the context? Context is that if you go in the Dham and if you still have a sinful mentality, then it is not recommended for you to stay there more than 3 days. But if you are sincere and you would like to advance and you do not commit any sinful activities, then it is good that you stay in the Dham, get purified in the Dham, get direct experience of the Lord, so that you can advance and then you can come out and you can preach. So Srila Prabhupada also did the same thing. He stayed in Vrindavan for 6 years. He did a lot of bhajan. Many of our acharyas, they have stayed in the Dham. They have written books in the Dham. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they have all written books in the Dham. So the Dham potency is extremely important for us. Alright? So we have to understand in the context. And Prabhupada also said that, he also said in one place, that I want that all devotees who are retired, they should go to the Dham at the end of their life. And they should spend performing bhajan in the Dham. Right? But Prabhupada also said that devotees who are living in the Dham, they are all neophyte devotees. I want that they should come out of the Dham in the comfort zone and they go out and preach the holy name. Right? So Prabhupada said different things at different times with respect to the context. But we can reconcile these things. So this is the significance of Dham. We should take advantage of the Dham as much as possible. And then the most important principle is that just as we want to take association and then we want to create the greed, cultivate the greed. So similarly, when we go to Dham, we take the spirit of Dham, we take the mood of Dham, we take the remembrance of the Dham, and then we connect with our surrounding also. It's a very advanced stage. Like for example, if I see some kadamba tree or tamal tree, then immediately I remember one of the forests of Vrindavan in Mangalore or in Mumbai. That's a very advanced consciousness. But this is the state of advanced devotees. So Prabhupada created Vrindavan everywhere he went. He actually manifested Vrindavan. Now there are different categories of dhams. So one is the Golok Dham in the spiritual world. Another is the Bhaumat Dham, which is not different from the spiritual and the material. So the Dham which is manifested in the material world, where the Lord performs his pastimes when he appears, that is called Bhaumat Dham. Bhaumo means Bhu, connected to the Bhumandal. That's why it is called as Bhaumat Dham. That is another Dham. Dham which is manifested by the devotee, that's another Dham. Dham which is residing in the heart of devotee, that's another Dham. These are different categories of Dham. Right? So now what is the difference between these Dhams? The difference between Goloka and Bhoma is that there are no demons in the spiritual world, but there are demons in the material Dham, in the Bhoma Dham. And in the Bhoma Dham, Krishna is undergoing ages, different ages. So he is undergoing right from Komar to Padanga, Padanga to Kaishor. But in the spiritual world, he is now a Yovanam child. Eternally youthful, eternally Kaishor form. Right? So this is the main difference. And then in the spiritual world, everyone is perfected. But in the material world, through the Dham, the Lord is also attracting conditioned souls. He is also attracting, he is giving chance to a lot of people to become devotees. That's another difference. You know what? Sanatana Goswami says that demons also exist in the spiritual world. And Krishna also has his different ages in the spiritual world. So these are all details, and we can also reconcile these things. We don't have time for that, but this is the difference between Goloka and Bhoma Dham. And then what is the difference between the Dham which is created by a devotee, or a temple which is, or the deity form of the Lord is also Dham. So what is the difference? The difference is that these different forms, like the deity form of the Lord in a particular place, or the temple, or the devotee creating a particular temple or dham. So the difference is that as long as there is pure devotional service performed in these places, to that extent it will manifest the effect of the dham. But in Bhoma Vrindavan, whether there is pure devotional service or not, pure bhakti is performed or not, it will always have the effect. But in outside Bhoma Vrindavan, if you go in the temple or in different places, like for example, where there is association of devotees, wherever the kirtan is chanted, so that also becomes tentatively the dham. But it all depends on how much purity it is imbued with. If it is completely pure, then the same effect of dham you can also realize there. So the degree of purity is very important outside of Bhoma Vrindavan. But irrespective of, independent of any kind of external factors, Bhoma Vrindavan always gives you the effect of the dham. That's why it is very important to visit Jagannath Puri, Mayapur, Navadvip and Vrindavan. And obviously there are other dhams also, like Ayodhya is there. So these are like, see, anything connected with Krishna is the topmost. So the name of Krishna is the primary name, and the effect that is produced by chanting the name of Krishna is not the same as effect produced by chanting the name of Lord Ram. Right? In the Vishnu Sahasranam you see that one name of Krishna is equivalent to 3 names of Lord Ram, and one name of Ram is equivalent to 1000 names of Vishnu. So the effect that you get by connecting with Krishna in dham or anything connected to Krishna will be much more superior. So this is what dham. So that's why Prabhupada also emphasized that devotees should take a break, and in a year, at least once in a year, they should come to dham, and they should try to spend as much time as possible in dham. So dham seva, and obviously you approach the dham with the attitude of service. The more you approach the dham with service attitude, the more you serve in the dham, the more the dham is revealed to us. Now what you see in the dham is not the real dham. It is, so see, there's a different category of dham which is called as Drishyaman dham. Now what is the meaning of Drishyaman dham? Drishyaman dham is that dham which you can see with your drishti, with your material eyes. So you see that there are portion of the eternal Govardhan which is still there today. It is the same Govardhan eternally present. So there are certain remnants of the dham which are still visible today to the naked eyes. But this is not the Govardhan that we are seeing. It is not the actual form of Govardhan. Although it's a remnant of Govardhan, in reality the eternal form of Govardhan is extremely beautiful. It is also very huge. So that is covered by the dham. Yamuna for example. Yamuna also you see, it's not the actual Yamuna that is there in the spiritual world, or even when Krishna was there present in Bhoma Vrindavan. It is covered form. So these are called Drishyaman dham. Drishyaman dham is that dham which is covered by Yogmaya potency of the Lord. So that's why whenever you try to take a materialistic person in the dham, the first thing they will see that there is a lot of garbage, there is a lot of stool, there is a lot of pigs, hogs, a lot of garbage throughout the Braj area. So they will only see on the external things, and as devotees we should not try to focus on these things. The more you perform devotional service purely, the more you serve the dham, the more the dham is going to be revealed to you. So at the stage of bhav, you can actually see the real manifestation of the dham. That is not different from Bhoma Vrindavan. But currently what we are seeing is the remnant of the dham, which is Drishyaman dham in the material eyes. Okay, so yeah, with this I think we are done for the day. If devotees they have any questions, maybe we can take some few questions. Yes, Lou.
When you talking about Ajamil, you said that he didn't perform or he didn't commit any namapara.
Yeah.
So, but he was he was a thief.
That's sinful activity. Sinful activity is different from aparadhs. The effect of aparadhs are very heavy, very severe. They destroy bhakti. Sins do not destroy bhakti. They will create obstacles. They will create anarthas. But aparadhs, they will cut off the root of bhakti. Whereas sinful activities, you will suffer for that, because you perform some impious activity, so you will get a corresponding reaction to that. And Krishna also says that apichet sudurachara ananya apichet sudurachara bhajate mam ananya bhakt sadhu eva samantavya. That even if a devotee commits the most abominable sinful activity, still he is to be considered saintly because he is in the right direction. He's worshipping me. Sadhu eva samantavya. I say that he is a devotee. So when Krishna is saying that he is a devotee, who are we to judge? A sinful person, right? So see, the point is that at the same time, there is also a verse in the Gita which says that unless or until all your sinful activities are finished, you cannot be determined in devotional service to the Lord. You cannot be fixed in that goal, right? So the point is that sometimes, by mistake, unintentionally, a devotee may commit sinful activities, or by the instruction of Krishna, he will commit sinful activity. Still, he should be considered saintly. The Lord will protect the devotee. At the same time, it does not mean that a devotee purposefully or intentionally commits sinful activities. Okay. Now, the effect of sinful activity is that it creates a corresponding reaction, which will come in the form of suffering. But Krishna also says, Sarva dharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshami ma sucha. If you surrender to the Lord, then He destroys our suffering. So that's why Prabhupada said that when you surrender to Krishna, then the apparent suffering you get as a token reaction. Instead of your hand, which is supposed to be cut, you will get, a small cut in your finger. So this is token reaction of karma. So this is, and another interesting thing is, Srila Prabhupada also says that the dreams that we see is also token reaction of our karma. So sometimes we don't even have to undergo that experience, the suffering. It appears in the form of dream, and it's a token reaction of our sinful activities. But it should not be repeated. So then it becomes an offense. Because committing sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name, thinking that, because I'm chanting the holy name, so all sinful activities are gone. I will not get in reaction. That is an offense. So that intention should not be there. So there is a difference between aparad, reaction of aparad, and reaction of sin. Okay? So the Lord does not take so seriously if a devotee commits sinful activities, but aparad very severely. Okay. Any other question? Yes.
In the spiritual world, is it Lord will not have different ages?
Yeah.
So, like Yashoda Maya in spiritual world, she will keep serving Balakrishna.
Yeah, so see, the point is that there is no Balakrishna. There is the eternal youthful form of the Lord. And the thing is that, see, so that's why I said, Sanatana Goswami says that whenever Yashoda Maya wants, Krishna will also manifest in his Bal-Lila form. But because it's a spiritual world, there is no time. So the remembrance is not there. So they forget. You understand this? Like for example, Krishna also kills demons in spiritual world. Okay, how is it possible? Because there are no demons in spiritual world. So Sanatana Goswami says that through the agency of Yog Maya, Krishna creates some demons just for his pleasure potency, pastimes. So what happens is, Krishna every day he goes to Mathura to kill Kans, and then he will again come back the same day. So now what happens? Although Krishna goes, the Vrajvasi, they will feel some separation. Now there is also a statement saying that there is no separation in spiritual world, but the Vrajvasis also feel separation because Krishna went and he also came back. So when he went and when he came back, the Vrajvasi will completely forget. So there is no experience of separation. So there is a temporary experience of separation, but that is lost by the experience of union again. That is all the dynamics of the Yogmaya potential of the Lord in the spiritual world. Okay? So Yashoda Maya, whenever she wants, Krishna will manifest in the form of this Balika. But otherwise, they all worship Krishna in this youthful form because that is the best form one can worship in terms of rasa. Okay, so you could, because Madhurya Ras is actually the highest Ras, and the foundation of Vrindavan is Madhurya Ras. So for Madhurya Ras to actually flow properly, Krishna has his eternal youthful form, because the gopis of the Lord, they are the highest worshippers of the Lord. So they cannot have loving relationship with the Bal Gopal, right? So Madhurya is the highest. It is actually all pervading. It is also mentioned by Rasik Gaudiya Vaishnavas that ultimately all the rasas, they are meant to assist Madhuryas. Okay? So the pastimes of Yashoda, some pastimes that are with Yashoda Maya and Maharaj with Krishna, and these are actually there because so that the gopis, they can experience some separation from the Lord. Like that, so the Rasik Vaishnavas say that these are all meant to assist the Madhurya pastimes of the Lord. Okay, yeah. Any other question?
Thank you for such a lovely association.
Thank you for your association. Yeah.
So my question was, you mentioned about the greed and the association.
Yeah.
So we should have a greed, and we develop association to develop that greed. But from the life story of Bharat Maharaj, when we see that story,
Okay.
at the later part of the stage, when he was in the Bhav stage,
Yeah.
he got attached to the deer.
Yeah.
So at that time he did not have that association. That's why
Okay, yeah.
he fell down from that. So,
Yeah.
so do we require association even at the higher stages of our?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And so see, at the higher stages, the Lord, especially when you read the state of Bhav. Now see what happens at the state of Bhav. See, first of all, why there is a stage called Bhav? Why not directly from? There are basically the entire stage of Bhakti is in three categories: Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Now, at the stage of, see now, why do we require this intermediate stage called Bhava? Because the goal of sadhana is to develop bhav, emotions for the Lord. Why not prema? Because there is a difference between bhav stage and prema stage. At the stage of bhav, the samvit and the lordly potency of the Lord will enter the heart, which is just a ray of the Lord's internal potency. At the state of prema, it is like the sun. So like the sun rays, the ray of the sun is entering the heart, the state of bhav. And at the state of prema, the entire sun is appearing. Okay, so in terms of intensity, prema is definitely much. But it is also distinguished from the stage of sadhana because the emotions and symptoms have already appeared. Like one can realize Krishna just by the stage of bhava. One can see the Lord directly, face to face. Okay, and at the same time, bhava is also distinguished from prema because there are effects of aparadh still continuing at the stage of bhava. That's why Jiva Goswami states that Bharat Maharaj had fallen down because he had committed a previous aparadh in his previous lifetime. So in the previous lifetime, the effects of aparadh still continued in this lifetime, and because of that he got attached to a deer. Otherwise it is not possible for a person at the stage of bhava to fall down. Because of a previous aparadh, he got distracted, he got attached to a deer. Whereas Acharya like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says that actually Bharata desired special type of prema for the Lord. He wanted special type of prema for the Lord. So that's why the Lord gave him 3 lifetimes, so that he could increase the intensity of his prema. So, multiple angles. But yeah, one could also deduce from this pastime that association is very important. For devotees like Bharata, association does not matter. Okay, because they are associating with themselves. And one does not give up association also, because one would like to relish Krishna consciousness. So there is no question of rejecting association. One will always associate. But it did not require association as such. Externally we can learn that as a sadhaka, at the stage of bhava also we can fall without association of devotees. Because association of devotees will remind us, will keep us in track when we start deviating from the process. So that way we can learn. Yeah, thanks. Okay, any other question? Yes.
So we read about 5 main
potent forms of
Bhakti. So do we recommend that every devotee should inculcate all the 5 at different times of their life or in regular life, or if they say if he is attached to one of them and doing nicely, that's also
Correct, yeah. So, very good question. And it is also connected to the Navida limbs of Bhakti. So, one may say that, well, is it enough to just chant the holy name and not to implement the other limbs of Bhakti? See, the thing is that if you do it together, you get the effect of all these things. Because we are not a pure platform. We are not chanting the name purely. So that's why we require the help of different things. Now, you may implement just one limb of Bhakti. But I don't think it is possible for a devotee to advance without the limb of Shravanam. See, Shravanam is the stage of, it is the beginning of Bhakti. Devotional service begins with Shravanam. It does not start with Kirtanam. See, the state also, these are the proper logical sequence. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Smaranam is the third one in the sequence. It is not in the first. It is not the second. And Kirtan is not in the first. Although Kirtan is the king of all the process. So we have to understand one thing. Srila Prabhupada also says in one purport in Bhagavatam that unless you hear sufficiently, you cannot chant properly. And Prabhupada also says that one can only solidify their chanting when one has heard sufficiently, when one has heard properly. So see, why are you coming here? Why are you coming to the class? If Kirtan is all in all, why is the need to come and attend the class? Why is the need to attend Bhakti Shastri courses? Why is the need to attend? Why is the need to associate with devotees? What do we do in association of devotees? It's not that we are just chanting the holy name, right? We are also exchanging some knowledge, some experiences, some realizations. So we are hearing. You have understood everything because you have heard. Right? As I asked you in the beginning, that did you know about the tattvas? Krishna tattva, Bhakti tattva, Rasa tattva, right? You didn't know about that. Jad tattva, Jeev tattva, no idea. Radharani, who is Radharani? So when you come in association of devotees, in Bhajana Kriya stage, the first thing you do is basically you hear from them. So I don't think anyone can advance without hearing. Unless they are coming from spiritual world or the holy name has revealed everything to them, which is at the state of pure name. When you chant purely, you don't even have to hear. Everything the holy name will reveal to you. But that's a very rare case. So Shravanam, that's why our acharyas say that Shravanam is the beginning of Bhakti. It's not Kirtanam. Even Kirtanam also. Now what do you do? What are you doing? You are hearing Kirtanam. So again it's Shravanam. You have heard the holy name from someone. It's not that the holy name manifested to you. Right? So Shravanam is the beginning, and that's why it is very important to hear from Guru. Otherwise, what is the use of Guru? What is the role of Guru? You can do without Guru. So why do you need a Guru? You already know that these are the most important limbs of Bhakti. Take Kirtan, start practicing, start performing Kirtan. Why do you need Guru? Because in the process, we'll commit aparadh, we'll commit mistakes, we'll also, our ego will also come in between. So to correct us, to guide us, we also require the help of senior Vaishnavas. We also require mercy, we also require blessings. And how does blessing and mercy come? By following the instructions. It is not an automatic process. I will bless you. Oh, Kripa Siddhi, that's a different thing. It's a very rare thing. Okay, Narad Muni is appearing and then he will say that, I bless you, you attain love of God. Within 3 months, Mugrari the Hunter attained love of Krishna. It's a very rare circumstance. So, we attain love of the Lord gradually. For that, knowledge is very important. So, to answer your question, basically, Shravanam is very important. And then Kirtan, obviously in Kali Yuga, there is no other way. Hare Nam, Kirtan. Right? And through the process of Kirtana, now some devotee said that we should always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. How to remember Krishna? Not by meditating. In Kali Yuga, the best form of remembrance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. Sanatana Goswami established this tattva in Srimad Bhagavatam. That it is not even meditation, it is for previous Yuga. For Kali Yuga, Naham Sankirtan is the best way to remember the Lord. So, that's why when you hear when you do kirtan, automatically smaranam will be there. So it's a logical sequence, right? So see, now anyone here would like not to remember the Lord? If you say that you want to only perform one limb of bhakti, so let's say you picked up kirtan, so you don't want to remember the Lord, is it possible? You don't want to serve the Lord, is it possible? You don't want to offer respects to the Lord? Please understand, when acharyas they are saying that one limb is sufficient, it is indicating the power of that limb. So which means that you perform one limb perfectly, you will attain that goal. Like for example, then examples are given of Sukdev Goswami, Parikshit Maharaj, Ambarish Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, right? So when you hear properly, so Sukdev, Parikshit Maharaj did not say that, well, I am not going to hear from you, right? Or Sukdev Goswami did not just say that, I will just do katha, but I will not, he also heard from Vyasadeva. So we have to understand one thing, that in order to attain perfection, we require the help of these different limbs of bhakti. But then, finally you may get inclined to one particular limb of bhakti. Like for example, amongst the 9 limbs, you may develop a lot of taste for kirtan or smarana. So that is something that you can cultivate as the final goal. But all these are very important in the sadhaka stage. And when they say that one limb is perfect, it means that all other are important, but one of them you can, later on you can perfect it like that. So similarly, Prabhuji is currently coming to the Prabhuji's question. The first thing I said, that Kirtanam is the Yug Dharma, chanting. But Prabhupada said, chanting, 99% of advancement depends on chanting. But in order to come to that 99%, you require deity worship, because you cannot remember the Lord, you cannot see the form of the Lord. So you require something in front of you. So constantly remember. So you require deity, right? Then will you do without association of devotees? No, because association of devotees will keep you in track. They will, if you are deviating, if you are slackening, they will bring you back. They will enthuse you, right? So will you not go to the Dham of the Lord? See, what is the spiritual world? Ultimately, the spiritual world is Dham. So Dham has to be ideally our living, it should be our house, it should be our home. That's why Prabhupada said that Vrindavan is my home, Mayapur is my place of worship, and Bombay is my office. So Bombay is not my home, right? Because Bombay is a city in the material world, whereas Vrindavan, the Dham, is eternal. We are supposed to be living there. If you want to serve in the constitutional position, we are supposed to be living there and serve there eternally. So you have to develop attachment for the Dham. If you say that, well, I am not going to go to Dham, too much nuisance, noise, garbage, I will only develop attachment towards holy name. But holy name, what is holy name? Holy name is going to reveal Nam, Rupa, Guna, Leela, Dham, everything. Why do we say that Dham is not different? The temple is not different from the spiritual world. That becomes a Dham. So wherever you are chanting the holy name, by default it should become a Dham. So you cannot separate these things, right? Like that. So I hope you have understood that all these 5 limbs are very potent, and as Srila Prabhupada wanted, desired, please do it. And please remember that there are 4 laws of ISKCON, as Prabhupada suggested, right? So anyone knows that? Preaching is the essence.
Purity is the force.
Purity is the force. That's the first thing. Purity is the books. Yeah, books are the basis. So I forgot to emphasize on reading Prabhupada books. So see, basically, you may be thinking that, well, how can I do all 5 things? So it will take so much time as a grihastha. So one has to stay in their respective ashrams, but one has to decide to invest 10-15 minutes of time in reading every day and hearing every day. And whenever possible, associate with devotees. And if you have deities at home, you are already probably worshipping deities. If you do not have, Prabhupada said that those who are living close to temple, they do not need to worship deities in their house. They can go to temple, they can make temple deities the center of their activities. He did not recommend devotees to have their own deities when they are staying close to the house. At max, you can have God at time. Otherwise, your deity worship will interfere with your service in the temple. But Prabhupada wanted temple to be the center, right? So, invest 10-15 minutes every day reading Prabhupada books and hearing lectures of your guru, of someone whom you like. So that way you'll always be in touch with Shravanam. You'll always, and when you hear, you also will feel attached to the Dham. You'll also feel attached to the deities. Right? See, if you do deity worship without hearing and reading, Prabhupada said that the time will come when you will think that the deities are burdened for me. Because you have not sufficiently heard the glories of the Lord. So, it's very important. So, invest 15 minutes for 10 to 15 minutes for Shravanam, hearing, and 10 to 15 minutes of reading. Reading is also silent hearing in one sense. But both of them, they have their own advantages. What you will get in reading, you will not get in hearing. And what you get in hearing, you will not get in reading. Right? So, yeah, this is the way. And that will also help you to be very attentive in your chanting. These two things if you do, see, it's not so important to directly jump to 16 rounds. I know there are many devotees who push this principle that, oh, just come to the level of chanting of 16 rounds and everything will happen gradually, automatically. That is not never going to happen. So many 16 rounders devotees, initiated devotees, they are not able to chant attentively. They are not even able to chant at one stretch. So there is no taste in the holy name, even after being initiated for so-called 10, 20, 15, 20, 40 years. Why? Because you have not heard sufficiently the glories of the Lord. When you read these pastimes of the Lord, Srila Prabhupada from Acharyas, then when you, so that's why Prabhupada said that read Krishna book in the night time before you go to bed. So the next day morning when you chant, automatically you will start thinking and remembering the Lord, the pastimes. And that will become a habit. See, you need to form a habit. When it becomes a habit, automatically you will be able to remember. See, when you chant the holy name, it's not that your mind should be distracted somewhere else. You are thinking of work, seva, or some material object or something. No, when you are chanting Hare Krishna, Radharani and Krishna's form you should be able to remember that. If you are not able to remember, that means something is wrong in your chanting. That kind of chanting is not going to take you anywhere. It's actually inattentive chanting is the root cause of all the offenses, right? Bhakti Thakur said. So, attentive chanting is the key to success. And in order to be attentive in your bhakti, you need to have these elements in your life. At least Shravanam has to be there. So read 10-15 minutes and hear 10-15 minutes daily. And then you see the effect of your chanting also. See the effect in consciousness. It will become like a daily meal for you. You cannot live without that. Yeah. Okay, so is that okay? Okay, so thank you all the devotees for participating till the end and giving me the opportunity to share something for my clarification also. I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. One chapel path of Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhu ki jai.
So we are very thankful to His Grace Prabhu for this wonderful class, his association. As we had mentioned, Prabhuji is very renowned personality. You can see his lectures on YouTube, and of course we got a glimpse of it today in his class. And he has done his aerospace engineering from Florida University. Prabhuji is also one of the top book Srimad Bhagavatam distributors, as we have heard and read. And Prabhuji has written a book by name 20 plus most known
Must-know facts about the Hindu.
Prabhuji is showing the book. We can must know facts about Hinduism, which is quite famous now, and Prabhuji is going and to different centers, and there are so many senior devotees who have actually given their good comments and promoted the book. So we are fortunate to have Prabhuji here with us, and request him to please keep coming here and do your associations. So we thank Prabhuji by chanting one time Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much, Sudha Prabhu and Sandeep Prabhu also.
for organizing this and giving me a opportunity.